Tonight, in the wake of protests over crime, the province steps up with some big promises for Happy Valley Goose Bay.
We're committing to now providing 24-hour RCMP service.
More police working around the clock and a new detox and treatment center are all part of the province's plan.
Hurricane Ernesto will track south of Newfoundland tonight. It is going to bring some rain along with some gusty winds for parts of the Avalon. I'll get into all the details coming up.
Say a friend is having a birthday party. Say Easter Seals is having an event in Barring Park. How do we get there?
A Paradise family is adjusting to a new way of life, but transportation troubles are leaving their young son on the sidelines.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. A 36-year-old woman is facing attempted murder charges tonight in St. John's after striking and seriously injuring a man with a car. It happened Friday afternoon near Gulf Avenue in the Center City. Police say a man was found lying in the road shortly after 2:30 p.m. He was taken to the Health Sciences Center where he remains this evening. According to the RNC, the woman was driving a gray Honda Civic when she struck the man and fled the scene before police officers arrived. The RNC says she and the man know one another and is asking anyone with information or video footage from Friday afternoon to share it with police. Well, to central Labrador now, where the province is promising there are more police officers coming to Happy Valley Goose Bay to address fears of rising crime in the town. Now, this commitment comes after a local bar was destroyed allegedly by arson last weekend. That sparked hundreds of residents to rally over growing violence and crime in the community. Now, according to the RCMP data, reported crimes have not changed in recent years, but about 300 people showed up to last week's demonstration saying they don't feel safe. MHA Perry Trimper says the province has met with town council and will bring in more police, so there are officers on duty 24/7.
It's already started to happen actually a couple of weeks ago. We had 4 more officers coming in. Then we had the, I would say the public, reaction to the burning of the sandbar and an additional vandalism. But that had already occurred after we started to increase the police force. So in addition to just recognizing that, and so we said, no, let's 24/7, it's got to be in place, so we got to do it. So, we're working with it, and it's come to these types of announcements to show everybody that we're very serious. We hear their concerns, and we're going to respond.
Now, the town is struggling with a growing transient population. Some of that population are homeless and living in the town's trail system. And the simmering situation has led to a rise in discrimination, online racism, and deadly threats against Innu. Trimper says the province is promising to build a detox and treatment center in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Now, the mayor says that's a good long-term plan, but his town needs help now.
We've been discussing this particular matter as a council since, a few months after we came in. So it's, over 36 months. We've heard some long-term planning that has been discussed before. And we've seen some initial increase in RCMP, for periods of time. But things continue to escalate. So as a mayor, when my community feels safe again, I'll be happy and my council will be happy.
And we'll hear from an Innu lawyer and more from MHA Perry Trimper about the province's plans for Happy Valley Goose Bay in about half an hour on Here and Now. Well, still in Labrador, the Justice Department has temporarily closed the Labrador Correctional Centre because of asbestos. In a statement to CBC News, the department says it's moved the inmates to various other correctional centres in the province. The department says it's working to provide the inmates with virtual programming and services, including Indigenous services with an Indigenous liaison. Crews inside the LCC are working on asbestos abatement. The department says it should be done by early fall.
Well, Hurricane Ernesto is expected to pass south of the island as we head through tonight. Just taking a look at the latest observations, it is still a Category 1 hurricane. It is transitioning now to post-tropical, and essentially that just means that it's no longer being, or will no longer be fed by the warm ocean temperatures, but we will start to see some atmospheric interactions with that. So essentially, as we head through tonight, you can feel the humidity in the air at the moment too. Temperatures only in the low 20s, but it feels like the 30s at the moment. But the rain is certainly on the way. We did see some rain a little bit earlier today. Saw about 25 millimeters of rainfall in Marystown already from this system. Now, most of the heavy rain over the next, through the night tonight will fall across the Avalon. Rainfall warnings in place as well, mainly for the southern Avalon and as well as St. John's and vicinity. Expecting potentially upwards of 80 millimeters of rain. This will also come with some gusty winds as well. And I'll get into all of that when we come back a little later in the show.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Well, after 7 months in hospital, Lisa Loveless Hodder thought life would get easier for her son. But as the family tries to adapt to their new normal, they say finding a wheelchair-accessible transportation is one of the biggest challenges of being back home. CBC's Jenna Head reports.
Jake Anstey is like a lot of kids. He loves Star Wars and basketball. He has a lot of friends at school. But in January, Anstey went into cardiac arrest. His heart stopped for 10.5 minutes.
As a result of that, he has what is called an anoxic brain injury, which basically means that his brain was deprived of oxygen for an extended period of time, and it has caused global brain damage, which has left our previously very active, talkative, extremely lovable boy in a wheelchair, nonverbal, and fed through a feeding tube.
Doctors aren't sure why it happened, and they can't say it won't happen again. So the family now carries a portable defibrillator in case of an emergency. But getting their son back out into the community isn't as easy as they hoped. They live in Paradise and signed up for the town's accessible transit program, hoping they could quickly call a cab if he needed to go anywhere. But the taxi services participating in the program only have one accessible van. It would take 2 hours for that van to pick up Anstey.
How do we get Jake to, say a friend is having a birthday party, say there's, say Easter Seals is having an event in Bowring Park. How do we get there? I also have some concerns for September when Jake starts school, because we will need a way to transport him back and forth from school.
And it's not something the family can afford themselves. Wheelchair-accessible vehicles range between $35,000 and $120,000. The provincial government does offer financial help, but applications for the program are closed and there's no wait list. The area's MHA blames the lack of accessible transportation on the province.
We should be dealing with the most vulnerable and making sure they have the supports they need.
46 residents in Paradise use the town's accessible transit program. Not all require wheelchair-accessible transportation, but the mayor says anyone who is involved in the program can book 24 hours in advance.
We allocate $50,000 per year for the program, and as the program, people avail of the program, then we have to look at budgetary, allowances every year to make sure that that program is in place, and you have the full support of council for that.
But Loveless Hodder says they are still struggling to help their son do what every other 11-year-old does: get out in the community.
So we feel really let down, to be honest, because we feel like we were led to believe that there were supports in place that would help us as a family with a child with a new disability, and instead we got call back in 2 hours, we'll see what we can do.
Jenna Head, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, for more than a decade, breast cancer survivors have been taking to the water for their own regatta. The annual Paddle in Paradise was held on Saturday, and as you're about to hear, a big part of dragon boat racing has been its history of dispelling outdated medical myths.
So the Avalon Dragons is a group of breast cancer survivors, and we brought dragon boating to Newfoundland and Labrador. And we're just very excited to have this is our 11th festival. Dragon boating and breast cancer survivors started in 1996. Prior to 1996, any lady or man, for that matter, any woman or man who had had either a mastectomy or surgery for breast cancer were basically told, don't lift your affected arm over your head, and certainly don't lift anything with it, and don't do any exercise. So in 1996 in Vancouver, Dr. Don McKenzie, he got a group of breast cancer survivors, and he formed the first breast cancer survivor dragon boat team. So he worked with them during the year, and they did all kinds of testing to dispel the myth that you couldn't do exercise. And at the end of the trial, basically, not only was it good for them, it made them even better.
There's 20 people in a boat, and we all have to be in time. Everybody has to work together. Everybody has a part. Like, the best seat in the boat is the seat that you're in. So it doesn't matter wherever the coach puts you to. We all paddle together. We're all in time. And I think just that teamwork, it's almost like that camaraderie and that focus. And that, plus it's a really good workout. It's a really good workout, and you come off the pond feeling amazing. You're like, yeah, we just did that. And it's not a solo sport. It's not an individual sport. And like I said, it's a fantastic group to be a part of. Here with the Avalon Dragons, everybody understands what you're going through. No matter what it is, they understand. They get it. They absolutely get it, and that's huge. I always say it's a support group I didn't know I needed.
I really don't know how I could have made it through last summer without this amazing group of women. I didn't paddle a whole lot because I didn't have much stamina, but they were there. They had experienced the things I was experiencing. They really buoyed me up. They lifted my boat and helped me get through what was a pretty difficult ordeal last summer. Yeah. There's a lot of camaraderie here, and there's always someone to talk to if you're having a bad day, and generally those bad days are not about cancer. It might be about anything that anybody else is experiencing, but there's always someone there to talk to or to have a laugh with, or just someone that makes you feel better at the end of the day. It's something to look forward to.
What a fabulous event. And I wonder if those rowers could smell what was cooking nearby in CBS over the weekend. The town hosted Ribfest, serving up a mix of barbecue and family fun. The CBC's William Ping reports.
Two barbecue groups from other parts of Canada have been bringing their ribs on tour across the country, Krabby's Barbecue and Texas Rangers Barbecue. For people on the grill like Nick Narowski from Manitoba, part of the fun is getting to see new places.
Yeah, it's been so much fun. I'm so glad I came out here on the East Coast, like exploring all the trails and like the stores and all that, and meeting new people, of course.
The festival featured a wide array of barbecue favorites, from brisket to pulled pork to mac and cheese, and of course, ribs. The event also featured live music, a beer tent, and a bouncy castle for children. And you're enjoying the bouncy castle?
Yeah.
Did you guys try any of the ribs or any of the food here?
No, we are though.
You are gonna too? Yeah. Any food in particular you're looking forward to?
Steak?
Oh yeah, steak's a good one. William Ping, CBC News, Conception Bay South.
Going aloft, so I'm letting all those ropes out.
It's a great place to conquer your fear of heights. A lot of people come and they're nervous, and by the end of it, they're quite comfortable.
Yes, a high-stakes summer camp fueled by wind and a lot of hard work. That story still to come on Here and Now. Okay, before we bring in Ashley and talk about the weather, we do have a bit of breaking news. Some people near the Battery in downtown St. John's will notice a heavy police and search and rescue presence there this evening. We're told that's because crews are recovering the body of a man from a chasm near Signal Hill. We don't know any details, any more details at this time, but it's a story that we will, of course, be continuing to follow. And Ashley, probably not a very easy job for rescuers, considering the rain that we had earlier. Pretty slick underfoot, I would say.
Yeah, it certainly is. We did see quite a bit of rain a little earlier today, but anywhere from about 15 to 25 millimeters has already fallen, and we're expecting some more rain on the way over the next couple of hours. It's going to fall fairly quickly as well. So here's a look at the latest observations so far. Still a Category 1 hurricane with winds topping out at 185 kilometers per hour. Now, the Ernesto is starting to encounter some colder water. Still a little bit above where we should be. The water should be this time of year, about anywhere from 2 to 3 degrees warmer. So it is kind of keeping its shape a little while longer, but we're expecting that to make a little bit of a turn. There's the official track with winds, oh, it just went away, but winds topping out at about 120 kilometers per hour. So we will see some weakening in the coming hours, especially as we head through the overnight. But the one thing you'll notice today is how humid it is out there. Temperatures only topping out at about 22 degrees in St. John's, 25 in Bonavista. Now, warm temperatures through Central as well. Up across Labrador, different story, especially to the north, 8 degrees in Nain and about 21 degrees in Happy Valley, Goose Bay. But here's a look at the rainfall. So we are seeing some heavy showers for the west coast at the moment as well. Most of those heavy showers are done, or the showers that have moved through rather, but there's the outer bands of the hurricane. You can see that rotation there. And this, like I said, will continue to track north. Eventually, we will see the eye of the storm. It will track south. So that's good news for most of us, because that will take the strongest winds right along with it. That humid air, though, it feels like 29 degrees at the moment. It certainly feels tropical out there. Terra Nova feels more like 31. And we're seeing some the humidex values in the 30s pretty much across the island, even up into Mary's Harbor. It feels more like 27 with that humidity. So we're going to hang on to the humidity from this for really through Wednesday. We'll see a drop, a little bit more comfortable temperatures. Comfortable conditions rather. Temperatures are also going to drop, but we'll return to some muggy weather as we head into Friday and Saturday, at least a little muggy. So what's going to happen tonight? This is the future tracker. We'll see some periods of rain develop by the time we get to the 9-10 o'clock hour, especially for southern areas of the Avalon. Rainfall warnings also in effect across southern Avalon as well as St. John's and vicinity. This rain is going to fall quickly once it makes its way. So a 3-hour period likely is when we'll see that rainfall, and we could be seeing about 20 to 25 millimeters of rain per hour fall in that 3-hour period. So we'll likely see that in the metro area as we head towards midnight. And then again, a 3-hour period. It will fall fairly quickly. So we could see, depending on how much we see, maybe some road washouts. So definitely keep an eye on that. And as far as those winds are concerned, here's a little bit of a graphic just to show you what I'm talking about. As the hurricane approaches, essentially the eye is just to the south here. So all of the winds, the heaviest winds, are going to remain offshore. So that is good news, but we'll likely still get into some gusts between 60 to 80 kilometers per hour, maybe a little bit more for the southeastern portion of the Avalon. The winds will ease a little bit as we head towards the morning hours, and then as the system pulls away, we're going to see those winds pick back up again, and they'll be gusting again between 60 and 80 kilometers per hour. How much rainfall are we expecting? We could be talking about 60 to 80 millimeters of rain. And again, most of the Avalon will see the rain. But again, the highest rainfall, that 80 millimeters, is the most likely for southeastern portions of the Avalon. So that's a look at what's going to happen for Hurricane Ernesto. We'll get into the rest of the forecast and your long range a little later in the show.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, a group of students is crossing the Atlantic using traditional sailing techniques and limited technology. It's all part of a summer program designed to educate young sailors about life aboard a tall ship. Freelance reporter Leila Baudouin has that story.
Birthday, dear Kyle. Happy birthday to you.
This group of young sailors have been living together since June, experiencing everything from birthdays to haircuts.
Singing? Yes. Shania are very popular.
Fitting for a group of teen sailors docked in Port au Choix.
There we are. That's our closest chart anyway, coming into Port au Choix here.
Captain Wilson Shorey is leading the crew on a training expedition aboard the St. Lawrence II. Each year, the Tall Ships Expeditions Canada program takes students from across the country out on the water to learn the ropes of sailing. But it's the first time the program has been in this province.
I love Newfoundland and Labrador. Yeah, ever since I first sailed out here, I loved it, and I was also very excited too when the boat did decide to come here. I was like, oh, great, extra bonus of coming in and working as a captain a bit is get to sail these waters again. As long as he hasn't left yet.
Shorey was a part of the program as a teenager. He enjoyed it so much he came back to help others learn how to do something he loves.
I really enjoy sailing. There is a very nice feeling to it. I love being on the water.
Oh wait, I can't see anything.
But also particularly this program is really fun because of I find the youth involved are really great to work with. They're really keen.
Okay, so you're going to be aloft with John, loosing the squares in the MPS.
In our society, I don't think youth are given enough chances and enough opportunity to really prove what they can handle, and this is a unique organization that allows them to sort of rise and meet some pretty big challenges and responsibilities.
A lot of wind last night, so we had to make the sail smaller so it didn't blow us over.
My Inuktitut name is Khazatjo. Going aloft, so I'm letting all those ropes out and then heading back down.
So when those fill, they are being pushed forward, and that energy and that force is being transferred into our masts, which also pushes the boat forward.
It's a great place to conquer your fear of heights. A lot of people come and they're nervous, and by the end of it, they're quite comfortable. That's the real joy of it, is you come on and you face something that you think, oh, I couldn't do that, or that's going to be too hard for me, or I wouldn't know how to do that. By the end of it, all of a sudden, you're accomplishing all of those things that you didn't think you could do when you started.
It's time to leave Port au Choix with a final destination of Corner Brook. The St. Lawrence II will pick up a second batch of trainees there for another expedition before sailing back to Kingston for the winter.
For fishing communities like this one, wind on the water isn't normally a good thing. But for the crew of the St. Lawrence II, it's exactly what they'll use to direct their way back home. Leila Baudouin, CBC News, Port au Choix.
All right, Ashley, now before we go to the break, I just have to ask, how was Shania? I know you went all 3 nights and you're a super fan.
Oh my God, it was amazing. It was absolutely incredible. Couldn't ask for better weather. She commented on it a bunch of times, but it was also a sweet reunion on stage with a local friend who goes way back with Shania.
I said, yeah, I've never been in the sea before. And it's August, and I'm thinking, well, it's got to be warm, you know. And I was so excited. It was so friggin' cold. But the funny thing is that I'm still doing exactly the same thing as I did when I met you. I'm still in Newfoundland on a stage singing.
Oh, she's my favorite. That's Gloria Power being pulled onto the stage there.
Yeah, she befriended a young Shania when the singer was here more than 40 years ago. Stay with us. More local news is on the way. An Innu lawyer is calling for more empathy from everyone in central Labrador amid rising tensions in the region. Anger over what people say is rising crime has led to more online racism and threats against Labrador Innu. Jolene Ashney says racism has been commonplace in Labrador, but she believes it's getting worse.
It is wide known across the world and across the country that intergenerational trauma amongst Indigenous people exists. And I think that's a big thing that people don't understand, that even if a child of somebody who experiences trauma has not experienced it themselves, it still carries on with them. And then the cycle repeats. And one of the easiest ways to get rid of trauma is to resort to substance abuse and violence. And we all know that when you are addicted to substances, you will do anything to try to get that substance. So you are not living in the reality that you've created, and you're living with a bunch more trauma and a bunch more self-hate. So there's a lot behind those issues in particular. And I honestly believe that if you have not experienced this type of trauma, if you did not come from this type of trauma, you cannot understand what it feels like to be an Indigenous person and an Innu person specifically in this situation. My first thought on what's happening online and what's happening to people right now is I question, what year are we living in? Like, what has this come to? This is 2024, and we're reverting back to racism and discrimination and prejudice that's happened so many years ago that we thought maybe we're moving forward in this situation, but we're not moving forward. And I've seen numerous attacks on the Innu, numerous amounts of discrimination. I've seen video of people yelling that they hate the Innu, and there are so many things that are happening that I think people are turning a blind eye to, that affect people like me and affect my family and affect my friends who are now afraid to go to Goose Bay, to go get their groceries, to go, put their car in the shop, to go to work. And so these things I think about, and I myself think of what's going to happen when I go home. And because I'm speaking publicly about this, what will happen to me? Do I have to fear my safety? And now it's a situation where people are fighting violence with violence, and the whole situation was people concerned for their homes, which I sympathize, concerned for their children. And now it's turned into the direct opposite of, now we have to fear for our safety being in Goose Bay, and I don't think that solves the problem at all. I personally just want safety for everybody, whether that is a homeowner in Goose Bay or whether that's an Innu person in Goose Bay trying to get groceries or doing their daily activities. I want safety for all, and I think that this has to be an Innu-controlled solution, but also it has to be a cooperative approach between the town of Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and the Innu, because we can't solve a problem with just one side. It has to be both. And we have to also then, personally, what we can do is look at how we treat ourselves and how we treat others. And this isn't just for those who live in Goose Bay, it's also for the Innu as well. And taking into consideration, like, how would you like to be treated, whether or not you suffer from addictions or whether or not you have done ill in the past. I think that we all need to take a step back and look at what we're saying and how this continues the cycle of racism, discrimination, and prejudice throughout our lives. And that now this defense has turned into vandalism, and people are now afraid on both sides. And I don't think fear will solve an issue. And I believe that it's up to the Innu to help and try to create a relationship, and unfortunately a relationship between the town of Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and Innu Nation, and the bands of both communities have not had a relationship. And I think right now it's time to try to repair that situation and form a bond so we can cooperate in good faith with each other and not have to be afraid of any type of discrimination from either side of the situation.
Well, still with this story, the provincial government has announced some short-term and longer-term solutions it hopes will help curb crime in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Joining me now to talk more about that is Lake Melville MHA Perry Trimper. Thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here, Carolyn.
So before we get into those specifics, we just heard from an Innu lawyer who's talking about racism and threats of violence towards some Indigenous groups in Happy Valley Goose Bay. And I'm wondering if the provincial government has consulted at all with the Innu Nation and the Shahiji First Nation on how to best tackle crime and racism in Labrador.
Well, the Innu Roundtable, of which is the technical professional voice of the Innu, has been working with the action team that's been in place for about 3 years. So I would say yes to that and many other questions in terms of short-term issues, in terms of ways that we can respond to the rising sense of not feeling safe in the community where I actually live as well. So I know it firsthand. But as well, a longer-term view to what can be done to address addictions, homelessness, and many other issues that are wrapped into this challenge.
Jolene Ashni talked about, some threats of violence that she's heard about, people being afraid even to go to the grocery store, talk about one Innu man being shot at with a pellet gun. How concerned are you about those seemingly growing tensions in the area?
Yeah, I can feel that tension rising. I have to say to you, as useful sometimes as social media is, I really am frustrated with the inability to use it when you really want to reach the authorities. So if something untoward, and some of those examples you said, if those are happening and they're, let's get to the authorities. Call the RCMP, let's get it addressed. I'm just watching a spiral of discussion on Facebook, and it's not been helpful. I've been urging now for a long time, and I feel the voice, even at that rally last Monday, I felt and heard many people saying, we need to start calling the RCMP more, and let's get to the bottom of it. It is a great community. We're proud of the whole region. We're proud of all of our residents. We're supporting each other. We really need to, while the tension's up here right now, really be calm and support our neighbors. I'm pleased to say that this morning I was able to advise my own constituents of throughout Labrador that we're committing to a treatment center, very similar to what one would find at Humberwood, as well as important services around detoxification. Many people are dealing with alcohol, drugs, and so on. So we need those services offered in Labrador. This has often been a challenge, and I have to also at the same time compliment the Innu, who just recently started their own treatment program, and it's off to a great success. The band recently reached out to me, asked if the province would be able to support them. I said absolutely. We're trying to arrange a visit for myself to go in there and see the results of that. But this is a good example of the kind of collaboration and the dialogue that's going on back and forth.
So that's a longer term solution. What about the short term? What sorts of things can government do right now to help the problem?
Well, absolutely. And we've been dealing with this. I've been dealing with it as an MHA for many years. So we've been, I would say, increasing the level of attention to it. And last week, following a series of meetings I've had here in St. John's, we're committing to now providing 24-hour RCMP service. So we've had gaps in that duty day where we might not have had somebody on duty, but they certainly were on call.
What kind of gaps?
Well, it's a 4-hour gap in the rotor. So now that's being filled. So we're going to be drawing in additional members. It's a serious situation. Part of the frustration in the community is, does everyone understand the level of statistics, the level of issues that we have to deal with here? Yes. The RCMP get it, the province gets it, everyone else involved gets it. I would ask people to continue to call and so on, but nevertheless, we will be upping the profile of the RCMP in our community, and in different ways. More patrols around businesses, folks in uniform, that type of thing. Also related, of course, are, for some of the serious offenders, and it doesn't matter who you are and what you are doing and so on. If you're breaking the law and you're causing a lot of problems, we need to be looking at other different things we can do around remand. So the Minister of Justice has been working with the Chief Justice to evaluate other options and what can be done around remand, the kinds of conditions upon release, how, when, curfew checks, those types of things.
How quickly do you think you can get officers into the community? I assume this means more officers will be needed. How quickly can that happen?
I don't have an exact number of days, but I can tell you it's in that kind of time frame. It's already started to happen actually a couple of weeks ago. We had 4 more officers coming in. Then we had the, I would say the public, reaction to the burning of the sandbar and an additional vandalism. But that had already occurred after we started to increase the police force. So in addition to just recognizing that, and so we said, no, let's 24/7, it's got to be in place, so we got to do it. So, we're working with it, and it's come to these types of announcements to show everybody that we're very serious, we hear their concerns, and we're going to respond.
Well, Perry Tremper, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Well, there was a crowd getting smashed at the Lantern in St. John's over the weekend. And no, it's not what you think. It was the annual Super Smash Brothers tournament. And that's a video game that draws big crowds, and more than 100 people gathered there for the 3-day tournament. Have a look.
We're here this weekend running our largest event that we've ever had the opportunity to run, which is St. John's 10. The name is a play on a phrase that is in the Smash Brothers scene, which is no Johns, which just means no excuses. So like sometimes someone will go into a match and they'll have cold hands or they'll be nervous and they'll say like, oh, like I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, that's why I lost. So it's kind of a play on that phrase, as well as St. John's, which is where we're hosting this event. So I seen a documentary about the competitive Super Smash Bros. Melee scene that got a lot of people into playing it, and so I was one of those people who got into the game through that. And I remember just seeing it, and it just seemed amazing and just seemed really fun. I played Super Smash Bros. As a kid. I thought it would be awesome to enter a tournament with it. So then I just looked up on Facebook if there was a local scene in Newfoundland, and sure enough, there were people running events. When I moved to St. John's for attending school, that's how I got involved. So there's a lot of people like that. We also have people from outside of St. John's. We have some people from Corner Brook, so they drove all the way here for this event across the island. We also have some people outside the province as well. So we have about 20 to 30 attendees that are from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. We have someone from Philadelphia that is here. We have someone from Ontario that is here. So it kind of spans a pretty large reach. But this is the highest amount of out-of-reach and attendees that we've had at any event that we've hosted.
A few years ago, I went to a different tournament where I met a Newfoundland player and we became very close friends. And that same year, I flew out, and that was 2 years ago at St. John's 8. In the capacity of at work, people were like, oh, you're going to Newfoundland, you must be going to see music or party or see some really cool people. And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of doing all of that, but I'm here to play a video game actually. And they're like, oh, I don't know if I knew that about you. And yeah, being, identifying as a gamer or being someone who games is something that I think people are getting more and more used to as a hobby that people will travel for, but it still catches some people off guard.
A few of the players from New Brunswick who get to travel to many of the other mainland events and then some of the events in the States, which are a lot larger than this. They'll usually have thousands of entrants. They would still say that this is their favorite event just for the sense of camaraderie, friendship. We're all very warm and loving people. I think that's kind of the Newfoundland in Smash Bros. Newfoundland, of course. And yeah, I just want to keep growing and allow everyone to have such an awesome experience with it as much as I have.
The price of polluting in Canada is a hot-button political issue. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has promised to end the carbon tax if his party wins the next federal election. What's less clear, though, is whether he plans to keep charging Canada's largest polluters. David Thurton reports on the uncertainty it's creating for businesses.
If the industrial carbon price was eliminated, this carbon capture and storage facility could be at risk because there would be no profit from lowering emissions.
I think a price on carbon is an important part of that policy mix that helps to incentivize projects.
It's clear Pierre Poilievre wants to eliminate the consumer carbon tax and rebates.
Axe the tax! Axe the tax! Axe the tax!
Not so clear.
He will never tell us if he would keep the pollution pricing system for heavy industry.
Will he scrap the industrial carbon tax?
There is no industrial carbon tax on the oil and gas sector.
There is, though, a carbon price on industrial emissions.
If most people understand a carbon tax as carbon pricing, then it's true that there is a carbon price on industry.
Here's how it works. Most provinces and territories administer their own systems based on federal benchmarks on emissions and price. Firms that miss the benchmarks pay for credits. Firms that meet them can earn and sell credits for profit, like this American company wants to.
The reason we decided to go to Canada first is Canada has a price on carbon. So I can recover the higher cost of stripping out the CO2 with the price on carbon.
Dow Chemical is spending nearly $9 billion to decarbonize its Alberta plastics plant.
At the federal level, if they scratch, that price indication of the change, that is going to have a meaningful impact.
In other words, lose the price on carbon, risk losing the investment. For many, what's worrisome is the uncertainty.
keep it or scrap it. The worst solution is stay undecided.
Industrial carbon pricing drives actually most of the technologies that they're working for.
Also, carbon pricing is by far the single most important climate policy, and if it remains, the Canadian Climate Institute says it could account for nearly 40% of Canada's greenhouse gas reductions in 2030. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
The body of a Canadian has been recovered after a yacht sank off the coast of Sicily. The yacht was chartered by British tech billionaire Mike Lynch. He's among 6 people still missing. 15 others survived. The luxury yacht, shown here before the sinking, went down during a storm. Italian authorities say a tornado over the water struck overnight. The Palermo Port Authority says the Canadian who died was the ship's cook and had been living in Antigua. Legendary TV talk show host Phil Donahue has died. He's widely credited with revolutionizing daytime television.
Not prejudiced whites do not want to recognize black.
The Phil Donahue Show countered the typical daytime programming of game shows and soap operas. It built a reputation as a forum for tough questions on hot-button topics such as equal rights for women and minorities. And he was the first to incorporate audience participation in the talk show. Phil Donahue was 88. Well, the first super moon of the year that also happens to be a blue moon is lighting up the skies tonight. One of the first cities to catch the rare event was Sydney. More cities witnessed the sturgeon blue moon as the Earth turned. A super moon is when the moon is at its closest point to us, making it appear larger than usual. And it'll soon be our turn. But when will people in this province see it? Ashley is back with your forecast just ahead.
.org.
Okay, so before the break, we were seeing some shots of that beautiful supermoon. They saw it first in Sydney, Australia, and I asked the question about when will be the best time for us to see it.
Unfortunately, the answer is not tonight. But if you watched yesterday, or if you looked outside yesterday at the Shania concert, the moon was stunning. So obviously, we're just approaching the full moon. But
and I guess we can't see it because of the weather. And the clouds and the rain. Ernesto, thanks so much.
Thanks, Ernesto. Let's take a look at what's going to happen tonight. So temperatures are going to stay mild, so it would have been beautiful for viewing, but we are looking at that rain. So those winds are going to ramp up tonight. East changing to northwesterlies, anywhere from 40 to 60 kilometers per hour now. Southeastern portions of the island, of the Avalon, are going to see some gusts higher than that as well. Labrador, you are generally looking at temperatures in the single digits. Chance of showers from Happy Valley, Goose Bay through to Cartwright tonight. And again, your temperature or your winds will be out of the north, around 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Into tomorrow afternoon, or tomorrow, we should actually see a little bit of a few peaks of sun in the mix, especially for parts of central and the west coast. Overall, still hanging into the 20s. And again, it'll still feel a bit humid. Different story, though, for the northern peninsula, southeastern portions of Labrador. You are looking at your temperatures only reaching about 11 degrees tomorrow with some rain. And then the rest of the big land looking pretty decent, 17 to 18 degrees through the day. Again, northeasterly winds, but you will see some sunshine through the day as well. As we look towards our Wednesday, it's going to be unsettled yet again. Not too bad, though. We do need this rain. It has been very dry out there, but we are going to continue to see those showers through most of the day. Things should improve up across Labrador as we head into the afternoon on Wednesday, but we will see a bit of a drop in temperature. So down to the teens, only about 18, 19 degrees through central, west coast, northern peninsula. Along the south coast, generally, again, southern areas of Newfoundland as well as the east, you're looking at your temperatures in the mid-20s, and teens, the story up across Labrador, but again, clearing out as the day goes on. So it's actually going to be a pretty nice Wednesday. And then into Thursday, again, temperatures are going to stay in the upper teens, low 20s across the board. We'll say goodbye to that humidity. And then Labrador, you're looking at plenty of sunshine, temperatures around 18 to 21 degrees through the day. Northern Peninsula, a tad cooler than that, only topping out about 15 or 16 degrees through the day. The long-range forecast, after we see that dip in temperatures, climbing back up again for Saturday. We'll also see a bit of muggy weather continue through the day, but for the most part, it is just going to be a bit unsettled. Chances of showers here and there, and some sun peeking out at times as well for your Saturday. And for central Newfoundland, you are looking at your temperatures in the teens as we head into Thursday, Friday. Rain returns. That will be the story on Saturday as well. You'll likely see some clearing skies as the day goes on, hovering around 19 degrees. And same thing for western Newfoundland. Overnight lows will dip a little bit as we get into the weekend, about 12 or 13 degrees overnight. But this is still right around where we should be sitting this time of year. Nice stretch for eastern Labrador. You'll see lots of sunshine through Friday, some showers, actually periods of rain potentially Saturday morning, but that should clear out. You'll sit around 25 degrees. And a nice stretch for western Labrador as well. Plenty of sunshine, temperatures 18 to 23 degrees. This is a lovely shot of a red sky at morning.
Oh, beautiful.
In Gross Morin. And thank you so much for that great shot. If you have any weather photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca. Or you can send them to my Facebook page as well. I can get them there.
Beautiful. Looks almost a little bit hazy.
It does. Well, we had a lot of smoke in the skies
Yeah.
the last little bit. It's also why the moon has been, you notice the sun coming up in the morning?
Yeah.
It's red. Yeah, that's all the smoke in the skies.
Right. I wonder if western Labrador will get a good view of the supermoon tonight.
It's gonna be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Send
There
us
you
a
go.
picture if you see it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And Ashley, it's so nice to be back with you
Yes,
here in the
nice to have you
studio.
back.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've been off for a few weeks for a staycation. I must say the weather has been incredible.
Ordered it just for
Thank you so much. Just the best few weeks. I feel so lucky. And but it's great now that we're getting all this rain coming through. So yeah. All right. Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you'll be back tomorrow.